All right, welcome everyone for the Planning and Strategic Initiatives Committee for January the 5th. Happy New Year's to everyone. I will ask any pecuniary interests or, okay, any conflicts? No. We will proceed to the 3.1 demolition control application, 26 Hebert Avenue. Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Davey. All those in favor? Opposed? Then that carries. Note for the delegations who have registered for the meeting this date. To all delegations, the city values encourages participation in dialogue in democratic process that occurs in council and committee meetings and through written submissions and correspondence. It is important that these interactions remain respectful towards other members of public, staff, council. In case where dialogue is not respectful or a delegates interrupts councillor, staff, or other delegations, makes derogatory statements about councillors, staff, or others that are disrespectful or uses hate speech of language that is considered harmful or defamatory, the chair may interject and take necessary action to maintain a respectful and inclusive environment for everyone, which could remove removal from the meeting. One last reminder, delegations are permitted to address council for maximum 5 minutes, which will be displayed on the screen in front of you. When there is 30 seconds remaining in your time, you will hear a small audio tone that will signal 30 seconds remaining. Please take that time to conclude your presentation, as there will be a second tone that at the completion of your time, and the microphone will turn off shortly after the exceeded 5-minute mark. Lastly, please do not take offense if following your presentation there are no questions from council. This is council's time to really listen and reflect upon the opinions and ideas shared with us from our community members. Just as a reminder, this is a formal public meeting to consider applications of the Planning Act. In accordance with the Ontario Planning Act, only the applicant or owner of the land affected by the planning applications, a specified person or public body and or ministry may appeal most decisions. If you do not make a verbal submission to the committee or council or make written submissions prior to council making a decision on the proposal, you may not be entitled to appeal the decision of the City of Kitchener to the Ontario Land Tribunal and may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the OLT. To understand your rights appeal, if any, or for further clarifications regarding appeals, please see the Ontario Land Tribunal website. 6.1 is the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for 808, 836 Cortland Avenue East. I believe we have Mr. Pennell. You are presenting first, and then delegates thereafter. Mr. Pennell, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Chair. The subject property is addressed as 808 836 Cortland Avenue East. The property is located on the east side of Cortland Avenue East, immediately south of the Highway 78 on-ramp. The property has an area of approximately 1.3 hectares and a frontage of 114 meters on Cortland. The property contains 3 existing buildings. The surrounding lands contain a wide range of land uses of various heights and densities, and the property backs onto 2 apartment buildings that have frontage on Vanier Drive. The subject property is within a protected major transit station area, or PMTSA, as outlined on maps 2 and 4 of the official plan. The property is located approximately 660 meters from the Block Line Ion Station stop, and is currently split designated on map 3 of the official plan as commercial and general industrial employment. A small portion of the lands is designated natural heritage conservation due to the Schneider Creek floodplain. The property was excluded from the Growing Together East study since the subject official plan amendment, or OPA, and zoning bylaw amendment, or ZBA applications had already been submitted and were already under review. The applicant is requesting an OPA and ZBA to facilitate redevelopment of the property with a high-rise mixed-use development. The OPA would change the land use designation of the developable portions of the property to Strategic Growth Area C. The developable portions of the subject property are currently split zoned under zoning bylaw 85.1 as arterial commercial zone and general industrial zone, with site-specific provisions. To facilitate the proposed development concept, the applicant has requested a ZBA to change the zoning of the developable portions of the subject property to Strategic Growth Area 4 zone, or SGA 4, with a site-specific provision and a holding provision under bylaw 2019-051, so change in bylaw. In addition, the ZBA would change the small portions of the property that are not developable due to the floodplain to Natural Conservation Zone, or NHC1. The holding provision would ensure that no new sensitive land uses are permitted until such time as a detailed noise study is conducted and implementation measures have been addressed and a record of site condition has been completed. The proposed development concept comprises a mixed-use development containing 3 high-rise residential towers, 22, 27, and 30 stories in height, situated on a shared 6-story podium. A total of 977 dwelling units are proposed, consisting of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units, and the ground floor of the podium would contain a total of 532 square meters of commercial use. Various amenities and shared common areas would be provided throughout the development. Most parking would be included within the podium structure, which would be wrapped with active use along Cortland Avenue and within 1 level of underground parking. Bicycle parking would be provided in accordance with the requested zoning. Access would be achieved via a single driveway leading to Cortland, which would be shared with the neighboring property to the south and located as far away as possible from the Highway 78 on-ramp. Staff suggests that the proposed development represents an opportunity to the city. The proposed development would help to support the planned function of the Block Line PMTSA by supporting major transit infrastructure, supporting a significant amount of housing, and a mix of land uses. Staff estimates that the proposed development would create 1,750 jobs. 1,750 residents would be able to locate there, and 19 jobs would be created. The commercial use would help to attract population growth. The development would provide visual interest in an attractive building design. Noise matters and record of site condition would be addressed through a holding provision. Staff recommends approval of the applications and further recommends that the urban design brief be adopted or endorsed rather to guide the future site plan process. Staff responded to questions and comments of the community through a neighborhood meeting, one-on-one emails and phone conversations, and through the staff report. The applications demonstrate good planning and staff supports the application. Thank you, and I'm here for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Pennell. We will hold off questions from the committee until after the other delegations. Next, we have Kevin Muir from Zero Group. Kevin, welcome. You have 5 minutes to make your delegation. Can we raise the podium if that's okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair Singh and members of the committee. My name is Kevin Muir. I'm with Zara Group. Zara Group is part of the ownership group of 808-836 Cortland, and we're representing the planning and development side of the project. Overall, in general, I'm here mostly just for questions and answers from council. We're in full support of the staff recommendation for approval of the OPA and ZBA. Don't want to sort of double dip in terms of the staff presentation and the report, but we really had 3 main points of emphasis from our perspective. One is this is an appropriate location for a higher intensity development. This is per the province, the region, and the city urban structure. It's a transit station area, and it encourages and requires higher intensity development. We like this site quite a bit from a location perspective. It really attracted us to this development, both from an ION perspective, 5 to 10 minute walk down the street to hop on the ION to get to the system. It's obviously a great location for traveling public on Cortland Road, major regional road, as well as the access for residents that may be commuting in or out of town, given that we're right next to the on-ramps to the highway. We've been at this probably for the better part of 4 or 5 years now. The property was purchased in 2001. We inputted into the ROPA 6 exercise in 2022. which brought this property into the station area boundary. The first plans really started to take shape in 2023 and 2024. We submitted the application summer of 2024, and the better part of 2025 was working, addressing comments from two agencies, mostly MTO and CN. And most of that was related to process time, I would say. There weren't, in our mind, there wasn't major issues. It's just a matter of getting the reports back in and the response time. So that was most of 2025. So we're happy to be here tonight and looking forward to approval of this project. This was, as the staff report indicated, this was sort of straddling the boundary between the old rules and the new rules of Growing Together East. We were out front of Growing Together East. Through the process, we worked with staff to roll this, the approvals and the zoning and official plan amendment into the new rules. And I think the one thing that we take out of the staff report is if we had have not done our site-specific applications, we agree with the idea that this would probably be in the SGA C and SGA 4 designation and zone, respectively, through the Growing Together East exercise. So that's all I have. I'm certainly answer any questions from council.
Councillor Janot.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Kevin, for coming in tonight. I think this is a perfect location for development, especially it's like you said, it's located right next to the expressway. My only concern, and I had this concern last year, and obviously there's some, the MTO has some concern around the accessibility to or in and out of the proposed development. And I know there's going to be some, this is not necessarily a holding provision, but some kind of additional review around that issue that I mentioned, the left-hand turn from Cortland into the development and around rush hour and stuff like that. So when can we expect some of those wrinkles to be ironed out?
Sorry, what was the last part of that?
When can we expect some of those wrinkles to be ironed out? I believe it's not right now, but a little bit further down the road.
Yeah, so we, through the chair, we went through a round of report revisions with, we had the city at the table from a transportation perspective. We had the region, obviously, because Cortland's a regional road, and we had MTO. MTO's main concern, obviously, in this location was operation of the highway ramps, to making sure that nothing backs up onto Cortland and affects access there.
I can interrupt you, sorry. The volume's a little...
Sure.
Maybe if you can increase the podium height even more so that you're closer to the mic. Just some of us are having a hard time hearing. And my apologies to everyone. We began a little late. I should have said that at the beginning of the meeting. We were having some another meeting that was taking a lot longer than we had initially anticipated in its timing. So apologies for the late start in the meeting. But if you can come to the mic as close as possible.
Sure.
Issues that come up as well. If you can speak to the mic as close as possible also. Thank you.
Absolutely. To repeat that, we had City, Region, and MTO at the table. MTO was the primary concern in terms of access to the ramps. We had the traffic impact study that was done as part of the initial submission had suggested a dedicated left turn lane, so 2 lanes of traffic plus a third for left turn into the site. The region, short answer, wasn't fond of that, so we had to go back essentially and do revise the analysis, which was to the region's satisfaction and to MTO's satisfaction for the purposes of the OPA ZBA. Right. We do have an exercise we have to go through as we get to detailed design and site plan approval, where there's a permitting exercise with both the region and the MTO in terms of an access permit. So that exercise is still outstanding as we get to detailed design.
Okay, and so you may not be able to answer, maybe staff, but what happens if once that exercise has taken place and it's determined that there really isn't a viable way to ensure that traffic isn't backed up at any part and parcel with the off-ramp off the expressway? What would happen in that situation?
I'm not sure if that's a better question for staff, quite honestly, but the reports that were prepared and reviewed and revised and reviewed, both the agencies seemed satisfied that this would not be an issue. We had offered up the idea of a dedicated left turn lane. I think the region's response was we don't have enough right-of-way width in that area, so it was the preference not to have that.
Okay, Awesome. Thank you very much.
Councillor Chapman.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. Thank you for coming in. Could you give us a breakdown on the how many 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units are being proposed? It may have been in the report, but I didn't.
I don't think I brought those numbers with you, but I think it's typically 1s and 2s are generally split equally, and this plan has, I think, 10% 3-bedroom units shown.
Okay.
So that, of course, these are preliminary plans, so these haven't been costed. They haven't been through the detailed exercise, so those numbers obviously fluctuate as we go through the detailed design process.
Right. Okay. Thank you. There was mention that so the buildings that are there are going to be demolished, and it says that there will be 19 jobs created in the mixed-use development. How many companies or jobs are being lost?
I don't know jobs. I know there's probably those tenanted buildings have, I would say, 6, 8, 10 businesses of various sizes there. They're all on short-term leases. They know that. There's a right to terminate depending on the phasing of this development project. But jobs-wise, I don't know.
Right. So
the 19,
compensation that the developer is giving to these companies that are going to be displaced?
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe that's required. But the question, I guess, would be some of these we're currently on a property that's designated and zoned commercial and what's called service industrial. So I'm not sure if some of those uses would be permitted, quite honestly, in the new zoning, which is more of a retail-oriented and residential.
Right. Another question, and I should probably know the answer to this as well. There's a 6-story podium, and then these 3 buildings, 22, 27, and 30 stories tall. Does that mean that the tallest building is actually 30 stories plus the 6-story podium? Or that includes a podium?
Through the chair, that would be a 30 maximum.
30 maximum.
That's imposed by the airport restrictions.
Okay, I think those are my questions for now. Thank you.
Councillor Stretch.
Thanks. My question, I think, is more for staff. Does this?
Could you hold on question to staff
Yeah.
just to delegate? Councillor Donnell, you're bringing back questions if that's okay. Kevin, you addressed that the subject property is adjacent or on the, how did you reference that? On the MTSA?
Pardon me, sorry?
So you said the subject property is adjacent, or is it within the MTSA, or is it on the other side?
It is within the MTSA, yes.
But it wasn't included in growing together?
Through the ROPA, the regional official plan exercise, it was included, so it was changed.
It was or wasn't?
It is included, yes.
It's included.
Yes.
Councillor Donnell.
Thank you, Chair Singh. I have a few more questions. First, and I believe I saw a letter from the Catholic School Board, as far as bus drop-off and pickup, do we know if there will be a right-of-way for buses to pick up students?
On the property itself, I don't think we've discussed that at this point. We have one access essentially onto the property that's shared with the abutting property at 844. My understanding is the school boards don't come on to private properties, but I could be wrong. I don't believe so, but that's probably a better question for staff.
Okay, all right. And last question: any affordable units in any of these units?
These are it's a tough one. This is contemplated as a condominium development, so it's tough to say at this point. Like most of our buildings right now that are going up, including the one at the former Crosby site, that's a rental building. It's typically 10 to 15% affordable to CMHC standards. Sometimes they bump up to the Development Charge Act standard, which is slightly more affordable. But condominium, it's tough to say at this point as we're still in the process.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
Next we have is virtual Lisa Bourbois. Lisa, can you hear us? Lisa, if you can turn on your mic. If you can turn on your camera or your mic. Okay, Lisa, we're having some issues. I think someone from our clerk's team will try to connect with you by phone. Madam Clerk, should I wait or should I just proceed to questions of staff in the meantime? Okay. So to the committee, we'll start questions of staff. We can come back to Lisa afterwards, if that's okay. So Councillor Chapman, go ahead, questions of staff.
Yeah, thank you. In the application, it refers to, well, the region has submitted a statement about the water supply. I just wondered if you could speak to that.
Through the chair. So we did receive revised regional comments, which were attached to the agenda and publicly posted as part of this agenda package. At this time, it may be best, and maybe it is staff's recommendation that a final decision on this matter could be deferred to January 12th in order to understand new additional information that we're expecting to have published by the Region of Waterloo tomorrow for their January 13th meeting. So we did receive the comments. We've attached them. A final decision on this matter should be deferred to January 12th in order for staff to be able to review that new and additional information tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. And when it's time, I'd like to call for a deferral.
Okay. And we'll proceed with the remaining questions of staff, though. Councillor Stretch, you had, so I'll just bring you back in because you had already addressed that you wanted to. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to connect with staff over inclusionary zoning and if this building is captured within the new bylaws that was passed for, I think it was January 6th, which is that today. So does this build apply?
Through you, Chair. So I guess the answer is yes, inclusionary zoning is included for this area. However, the percentage that of units that would have to be constructed if a building permit is pulled in the year 2025 to 2026 is 0%. That would increase to 0 to 1% for the years 2027 through 2028. Would increase to 0 to 2% from 2029 to 2030, and up to 5% in 2031, according to the current schedule.
Councillor Chapman, I'm going to Councillor Deneau. He's rung into, I think, when you mentioned your interest in potentially asking for the deferral in light of waiting for some additional information from the region. Councillor Deneau, this application being in his ward, did outline some similar concern earlier in saying that he potentially would have asked for the same deferral. I'll go to him and seeing if he's still interested in that, and you guys can fight amongst yourself to see who wants to bring it forward. Councillor Deneau.
Thank you, Chair Singh. And before I get to that point, I'm just going to ask staff the same question I asked the delegate, just around the, I guess, the bus drop off and pickup. Page 134 from the Waterloo Catholic District School Board obviously says they won't go on private property. So I'm just curious where the students are going to be picked up along a busy road on Cortland.
Through you, Mr. Chair, that has not been resolved yet. We're at the OPA/ZBA stage. We will get into more detailed design review at the site plan stage if we get that far. So we don't have an answer at this point, but certainly safety is priority, and we'll work in consultation with the school boards regarding bus drop off and pickup.
And that wouldn't be able to be brought back by next week, would it?
We can talk to the school board, but again, at this stage, we're dealing with broad strokes in terms of the development concept, and so.
And I understand that. I guess it's frustrating. To approve something that you don't know where these kids are going to be picked up or dropped off. And certainly Cortland is not a street that one would expect to have students picked up or dropped off. The public school will be accessible by walking, but the Catholic school is not. And so I know that's not part of like the whole process, but it is frustrating not to know what's going to happen with the kids. Understood.
Thank you, Chair Singh. Just to add to Mr. Pinnell's answer, and I do appreciate the frustration. Our understanding is that the school boards design their routes and figure out their stops once they know the registration and the student yield. So once the building is actually occupied and registrations occur, that's when the school board planners do figure that out. So we will not have that answer by next week, but it is something that the school board does take very seriously, and they with safety in mind when they do those plans and designs.
Okay. I guess if going forward, if that's one that is come to a decision, if the ward counselor can just be kind of notified of what their final decision is at that point in time, that would be great.
Sure, we can report back.
Thank you. And at this point in time, Chair, saying I'd like to ask for deferral based on the information that had been provided regarding. I know, but I'd like to ask for myself to defer it until next week, until January 12th. I guess that would be until the upcoming council meeting. That's fine. Councilor Chapman, are you okay with that? Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. All right. Deferral has been asked, but we will still try to give opportunity to the delegate that was registered. Did you get hold? Okay. So, in case they can't log on, but they can hear or see the meeting after the fact, they have the opportunity to again, register as a delegate for the council meeting, and they can do so in contacting the clerks. With that, a deferral has been passed. All those in favor, opposed, that carries. Thank you very much. So this would come back to council meeting, and hopefully staff will have at that time additional information related to the concerns outlined. So we'll proceed to 6.2, which is zoning bylaw amendment application for 7 Wimbledon Crescent. Evan, I think you are presenting first. Madam Clerk, I had a question, if that's okay. If you could. When you're ready, just key in. Thank you. Go ahead, proceed.
Perfect. Thank you, committee. My name is Evan Whitman, a senior planner with the Development and Housing Approvals Division. I will keep my presentation brief this evening. The zoning bylaw amendment is for 7 Wimbledon Crescent, with the applicant seeking to change their zoning from residential 2 to residential 4 to permit a semi-detached dwelling with 2 units on each side for a total of 4 units. The subject site is located on the west side of Wimbledon Crescent, just north of Lorraine Avenue. This area is generally characterized by the commercial plaza and mid and high-rise apartments to the west, and a low-rise residential neighborhood to the north, the east, and the south. The current building on the subject site was damaged by a fire and is currently vacant. It is a single detached property that was a duplex. The application is for a zoning bylaw amendment only. No official plan amendment is necessary to facilitate the proposed development. As mentioned, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment would change the site from the Res 2 zone to Res 4. No site-specific amendments are required. The amendment is necessary as the Res 2 zone does not permit semi-detached buildings. The applicant is proposing a 2-story semi-detached dwelling with 1 additional dwelling unit attached on each side for a total of 4 units. The application only requires that the semi-detached be permitted, as duplexing can be done to any urban residential property. A driveway and garage are provided for each side of the building, and each side is proposed to contain a 2-bedroom and 3-bedroom unit. The consent application to sever the subject site will be required in the future should the application be approved. In terms of the opportunity provided by the proposal, this will see the redevelopment of a vacant building damaged by a fire. It will introduce additional housing options to the area, and it is consistent with the 4 dwelling unit permission for residential properties, such as if the property was proposed to be redeveloped as a single detached dwelling. To conclude, the application is recommended for approval. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment demonstrates good planning principles and is consistent with provincial, regional, and city planning policies. Thank you. I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. We have a number of delegations first, so if the committee could hold questions of staff until after the delegations. David Galbraith, I believe you are first. David, as you know, you have 4 minutes and we can put the podium down. Thank you. Go ahead. Just try to speak close to the mic as possible.
And a registered professional planner here tonight on behalf of the applicant. In terms of an outline, I'll talk about the site's context, not overlapping too many details from Evan's presentation. The proposal itself, what we've heard to date through the community consultation, and the required planning approvals. So the subject property is 7 Wimbledon, which is located just north of Lorraine Avenue and east of Heritage Drive. The street contains primarily low-rise residential that are either side splits or two-story or bungalow in nature. To the west of the site, as Evan noted, there are some commercial uses and then mid and taller apartment buildings as well. The applicant is proposing to construct 2 semi-detached dwelling units on the property, each of which would be would include an additional dwelling unit for a total of 4 units. Within these units, the primary unit would have 3 bedrooms, and the upper level, which is the ADU, would be 1 bedroom in size. 4 parking spaces are proposed, which would be 2 in each driveway and would function as tandem parking spaces, which is permitted for ADUs. As Evan had mentioned, should the zone change application be approved, it would be the intention of the applicant to proceed with a consent application to subdivide the lot into two lots, which would allow for separate ownership of each of the semi-units. This shows the proposed site plan with the driveways located along the northern and southern edge of the properties and the garage parking space, which is at the end of those parking stalls. The next couple of images shows the renderings of the proposed development. It reads as a typical semi-detached dwelling. And as Evan had noted, the underlying Res 2 zoning that does currently apply to the site allows for 4 units as of right. So from a design perspective, the key change that you see here is that there'd be 2 separate driveway entrances, but the overall unit count is currently permitted within the underlying zone. This shows a rear perspective of the site. So in terms of the planning applications that are being advanced, it's a minor zone change application to rezone the property Res 4. Again, no change to the overall unit count that's permitted on the site is being contemplated here, but it's really for ownership purposes that each of the semis could be owned separately. The concept is fully aligned with the Res 4 zoning that's being proposed for the site, and no site-specific relief is being contemplated at this time. And as I've mentioned before, following the zone change approval, it would be the intention to proceed with a consent application in the future. So a number of comments were heard through the public process that I've kind of summarized into key buckets here. Tree preservation was one comment. There are a couple of trees within the front yard and 1 street tree on the site. This has been reviewed by the city, and as part of the future consent application, there would be a requirement for replacement tree planting along the street, which would again be secured as a condition of the consent application. Comments were also received with regards to traffic and safety and construction management, how that would be managed here. So again, that through the building permit process, that would be monitored and a plan would be set out at that time. In terms of parking and on-street parking and the impacts of this development, again, 4 units are permitted on the property already, and the parking scheme is compliant with the additional dwelling unit parking permissions of the city already. So functionally, it would mean that the owner of the occupant of the separate units would have to organize shuffling of cars, but again, that's pretty typical for additional dwelling units. And then finally, property maintenance. This is, something that comes up all the time, but the property would have to be maintained in accordance with the city's property management standards. And it would be the responsibility of individual owners to upkeep the site in accordance with that. So with that, I'm available for any questions you might have.
Thank you. There's a number of questions. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Chair Singh, and thank you for coming in, Mr. Galbraith, and for your presentation. You had mentioned that the semis would be set up for separate ownership of each of those. What about the additional dwelling units? Are those separate owners as well?
Through the chair, no. Additional dwelling units would be under the ownership of the primary owner of each of the properties, so they would be tied to the owner of each of the semis.
Okay, so there's going to be 2 owners for the 4 units. Yeah, I was concerned about who would look after the property then, because there are 4 owners on one property.
Yeah, so through the chair, it would be the responsibility of the principal owner to manage the upkeep of the property.
Okay, thank you.
Just to be clear, there would be 4 owners. There'd be 2 owners, right? 2 owners and then duplex. Yeah, just wanted that for clarity. Councillor Davey.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Galbraith, for your presentation. Just a couple questions. Yes, do you mind if I ask, is it the same owner now as who owned the home prior to the fire issuance?
Through the chair, I believe it was acquired following the fire.
Okay, that's actually good to hear. Okay, that's good. The other question I had was with regarding the height, where there were some concerns about the compatibility with the neighborhood. And I thought I saw in your actual drawings capping the height at 8.5 meters, or I believe 11 meters is allowed. Am I correct in that assumption?
Through the chair, that's correct. I think the ultimate height of the proposed buildings is 8.5 to 9 meters. And so that those similar height permissions are currently permitted within the Res 2 zone as well.
Right, so would there be any concerns then if we were to, and assuming we have the authority to this, if through the approval we were to cap it at, say, 9 meters, subject to the zoning approval, would the applicant be okay with that?
Through the chair, we would have to take that back just to make sure it aligns with the architectural drawings that are currently prepared right now. Certainly, we would want to ensure that there's a bit of wiggle room, and that it still does align with the underlying zoning that's in play currently.
Okay, that's good, because actually, as Mr. Chair should mention as well, similar to the previous item, I'm going to move deferral of this pending the region's water issues are finding out about tomorrow, so we're going to move deferral till next meeting. So perhaps you could look into that in the interim. Those are my only questions, the delegated questions of staff as well.
Just for clarity, you were planning on proposing deferral in light of getting some additional information from the region. Okay. Councillor Chat.
Yeah, just a question of clarification on the ADU. I thought I heard you say it was 1 bedroom, but the diagram is showing 2, so it's a 2-bedroom unit. Is that correct?
So I believe the primary unit would be 3 bedrooms, and then the upper unit is currently contemplated as 1 bedroom.
Okay, because in the diagram I'm looking at, it's showing 2. It's showing a master bedroom and then an additional bedroom. But, I mean, it's not, I just want a clarification.
Yeah, I can certainly take that back as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Questions of staff, is that okay now?
Thank you.
Councillor Davey, we have a number of other delegations to you. Yeah. I think we have next Kevin Cornish. Kevin? Oh, sorry. I don't know why it's saying Kim. It says Kim. dyslexia. I'm so sorry. Or illiteracy. I don't know which one it is. Sorry, Kim. You have 5 minutes to make your delegation. If you could speak close to the mic as possible. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Council. I represent the neighbors at Wimbledon Crescent. I don't know if staff's received the petition that was submitted along with questions that came along with it. Our primary concerns are infrastructure capacity, sanitary sewer. The municipality sanitary main on Wimbledon Crescent dates back to late 60s, early 70s. And the old clay and concrete pipe designed for a low-density subdivision of bungalows, increasing the load of what we originally had as 10 bedrooms with 4 units, laundry facilities on a single lot, creates a significant risk of surcharging the main. In addition, stormwater management. Proposed lot coverage levies minimal permeable surface. I'm concerned that the soak-away pits and the grading plans for a lot this small are insufficient to provide runoff onto neighboring properties, particularly during the increasingly frequently 1 in 100-year storm events. Site density. A 411 meters squared lot is significantly smaller than the standard Res 4 requirement. Forcing 10-bedroom configuration onto this footprint creates a high-density use that the existing street services were never intended to support. In addition, safety concerns. As previously noted in my letter to the committee, Wimbledon Crescent is a residential street. The investigation of occupancy to up to 20 potential residents raises concern regarding traffic flow and pedestrian safety, particularly at the corner of Wimbledon Crescent and Lorraine Avenue, where the public school buses pick-up and drop-off location is located. In addition, infrastructure and privacy. We're concerned about the increased demand on local parking and the potential for shadowing and loss of privacy for the direct abutters of the property due to the proposed building and height. The driveways that were proposed are a single driveway forcing tandem. It's a tandem driveway, so the owners and residents would have to back in and out of the driveways constantly. In addition, property neglect. The owner, applicant, BDRP, has shown previous lack of due diligence in essential property maintenance, specifically snow removal. There's currently an active report right now with the city. Landscaping, general upkeep of the unit. There's a lack of confidence that if the owner cannot maintain a small property, they may lack the capacity to manage the increased complexity of a 4-unit building. I also request that the city require a mandatory water and sewer servicing study that accounts specifically for the age of the current condition of the street mains before any holding provision is removed from this property. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. No questions?
No questions?
No.
No.
Thank you for your
Thank you. Thank you.
Next, we have Rod Cornish. Welcome, Rod. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Council, for your time. I do live in 11 Wimbledon, adjacent to the proposed building, and the size of that building is going to shadow our home. The privacy, and just it's a massive building, never intended for what we moved into and our surrounding neighbors moved into. They want to make a change. It was put into as a semi, and we were kind of okay with that. But now with a fourplex, it is too much, too many people in one small space, and you're dividing an existing lot even into something smaller. It doesn't make any sense to me. I understand the need for it, but the location here isn't appropriate. We have high-density building going on just a block away from us, and I get that, massive yard. So how much do we push into a small area with disregard to the local people that have bought and lived in this community their whole lives? I would ask council to take that into consideration. And that's basically what I'm asking. So I understand it. There is a need for it in our communities, but at this point, this is not what we moved into. None of us on this street. In making that change and pushing through, I hope you'll reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob. Next up, we have Erica Strauss. Okay, all right. So Erica, she's has very similar comments as to the previous delegations. Just to the committee's attention, Kim Cornish also provided written submission along with her delegation as well, and that the written submission was the petition that's referenced through her delegation. We'll go to the questions of staff. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Chair Singh. I actually now have a question for the Cornishes. Do you mind coming back down again? If you
one of the Cornishes, if you want to come up.
If that's okay. Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's
I just thought about it after you left, and maybe it's Mr. Cornish as well. Yeah, thank you. Thank you both, first of all, for coming in tonight and speaking, and I really appreciate it. My question to you is that Councillor Davey had and maybe you're going to ask this question, Councillor Davey, but had asked about a cap at looking at a cap of height at 9 meters. Is that something that you would be amenable to if there was a cap? I'm just wondering about that.
9 meters, that's still pushing 30 feet. To me, it's still it's not appropriate size building for that neighborhood. A semi, yes, one family, that I get. But a quad, and them subdividing it, and then subdividing it again.
It's a 411 square foot lot. It's a tiny lot.
And saying that it's within, it's playing on words almost, but I did not hear. They've subdivided.
I didn't hear what you said.
It's almost a play on words. Like, I'm not a lawyer, or they subdivide the original property and then they subdivide it again. So all within the constraint of the city's bylaws. But that's, it's not even, does it satisfy the city with its original intent of that subdivision with single family homes? Because we are the ones living there. We are the ones that raised our families there. We are the ones that are going to stay there or want to stay there. But a developer, and again, I get it. Our country needs more space. Lots of space in Canada. It's still, you have to have some respect for the community.
And if I can add too, the majority of the people that I got to sign the petition, a lot of the immediate neighbors were very concerned with the height restrictions and the shadowing, particularly the ones whose the unit would be overlooking their backyards. And a lot of the other issues most of the neighbors had concerns with was potential flooding on such a small such a small lot. having possibly up to, and again, the numbers of bedrooms have changed since we originally there could have been an occupancy of up to 20 people. So to have up to 20 people on one small property, flooding was a big concern for most of the majority of the neighbors.
I appreciate this. Thank you.
Okay.
Councillor Davey.
Yes, thank you. I'm actually just going to begin with a comment if I could. I do understand that there's, as of right rules now for 4 units. Going forward, that anyone can do on any property. But I did get a lot of concerned feedback from local residents because it wasn't explicit on that on the card. So going forward, if we could just make sure that whatever the actual number of units is, that goes out to the neighborhood to prevent that. That distrust, I guess, that some folks might feel. My first question is the boulevard trees being removed. I believe it needs to be removed, correct? And I'm just trying to recall if the developer will be subject to that. I remember we just passed some rather hefty fees for removal, and if that boulevard tree will be subject to that. If you know what the actual amount, I'd appreciate that as well.
Yes, through you, the chair. The boulevard trees, the street tree, our park staff did review that, and for compensation, they will have to plant 5 trees as compensation as part of the consent application in the future.
So they'll be fined. They'll have to pay a fee, so the city can plant 5 trees. Is that how that works?
In removing the tree, they'll have to plant an additional 5.
The developer?
Yes.
On that property?
In the area for street trees.
Okay, so our public trees then. Okay,
yes.
Thank you. I should actually follow up as well. Does committee have the authority if we did want to, and again, I'm deferring it, so the developer will be able to come back if they have any significant concerns, but does this committee have the ability to cap the height of, say, 9 meters to ensure it doesn't go up to 11 meters as part of this process?
That is something that the committee would have the power to do, yes.
Okay, so I will be looking for that when this does come back. Can you speak to there was some concern as well about the flooding issues the Cornishes had mentioned as well. Can you speak to the validity of that concern and some of the measures that the developer will have to undertake as part of the process?
Sorry, this was regarding the flooding water runoff?
Potential flooding issues, runoff, yeah.
Yeah, so the application was reviewed by our engineering staff, and because it is a total of 4 units, the typical requirement for functional servicing was waived in this scenario. They did look at the application and didn't have concerns. However, we are able to implement things like grading plans through building permit and consent applications to make sure that this property wouldn't funnel runoff onto abutting properties.
Okay. Thank you. Those are all my questions. I have a comment as well at the appropriate time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to take on to what Councillor Davey started with, is what was my concern when I was reading this report with regard to the public comments. A number of them weren't aware, were told that this was going to be a semi-detached. How does that happen through this process? Like, how does something get to the public, they read that, and then they don't get the actual facts until the meeting?
Certainly. So the initial advertiser for the property was a semi-detached dwelling, as ultimately that's the permission that's being sought. Any application or any property, can be duplexed. So if this came in as a semi, got approved, it could be then duplexed after the fact as well. So ultimately the permission they were asking for was for a semi-detached. The advertisement for this meeting, the newspaper advertisement, both stated 4 units to clarify that. So originally it was, yes, their application is for a semi-detached. They are allowed to duplex those with or without other planning applications.
Thanks, and I appreciate your explanation there. I guess I'm just, if I can make a comment. Well, this is part of that, but okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay. When I was reading this through, I think it's really important to build the trust with the community, the residents, and I know that staff work hard to do that. So if there's any way that we could, ensure that things are written in a very simple way for just the general public, it's no easy task to understand planning rules and regulations and what could happen. So if there was any way things could be more clear and not give try to avoid giving residents false expectations, I guess is what it is, because it just increases the disappointment and the anxiety amongst the neighbors. We don't want that to happen. But thank you. Thanks.
So let's hold our comments to the end. I let Councillor Michaud go out of order because I'm always afraid of a wrath. But first questions of staff. Councillor Stretch.
Great. Councillor Davey covered most of my questions. I just wanted clarification or to inquire specifically about the blue spruce tree that delegates asked about. And is that planned for removal? And if it is, what is the compensation?
Yep, so the coniferous tree at the front of the property, it's a private tree and it is proposed to be removed.
There's no, just to clarify, there's no compensation then for the private tree. It's only the public trees.
Oh, sorry. They'll have to follow the private tree removal bylaw, but in terms of compensation for the city.
Okay, thank you.
That's okay. It wasn't intended for the public anyways. Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Chair Singh. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about a concern that the residents had raised as well about first of all, the parking. Probably it's safe to assume that there will be two on each driveway. There will probably be at least two cars because there's the two units on each side. Can you maybe comment on the public transportation that's available in that neighborhood, and then what you think this will do in terms of street parking?
Yes, the region provided comments on GRT access. They said the subject property is well served by transit. GRT Route 204 operates nearby on Lackner Boulevard, Regional Road number 54, with bidirectional stops located less than 250 meters from the subject lands. So generally, it's good to have that sort of development near an express route.
Okay, so there is some transit in the neighborhood, but 250 meters is a good jaunt away from where these will be. Yeah, I share their concern about, people jockeying for positions in a driveway with two separate units there. The other thing that they had raised as well was around property standards and their concern, which, there's going to be two separate owners for these properties. And as you had mentioned in your presentation, like two separate owners that would have to look after their side of this. Can you maybe comment on how that would be handled by bylaw or any concerns around that, please?
Certainly. So typically with bylaw property maintenance concerns, it is done on a more or less complaint basis. If someone's not clearing their sidewalk, if there's loud music, things like that, then a call to bylaw enforcement is made and an officer will come out to address the situation.
Okay, thank you. I would also like to reiterate what both Councillor Davey and Councillor Michaud mentioned about the initial information that went out about this. I share their concerns around just being clear with the public about what this means. I would have assumed a semi on the property, meaning 2 units as opposed to 4. So I think that's important as well. Sorry for the comment. Thank you, Councillor Singh. Chair Singh.
That's all the questions of staff. Councillor Davey.
Yeah, just a quick comment for deferral motion, just so those that are here understand. So, my expectation is that this development will actually go ahead. We are deferring it to next week, pending information about the region's water issue, which you may have heard about. So who knows what may come of that. But I did want to speak to I do apologize of what happened here. I do apologize for the lack of clarity in terms of the semi-detached versus the four. That was an error on our part, city collectively, and that's something that we'll look to clarify in the future. Having said that, it is really important to note that the developer really could have applied for a semi-detached only, as you know, with you guys thinking it's 2 units, and then after he got his approval, changed it at any time and made it 4 units. So it's really it's actually sort of a good thing because now the developer is planning for it properly, right? Sometimes you don't always see that. And with the parking as well, someone could put in 4 units without 4 parking spaces. They could have done it with fewer, in theory. So there is, I think, some optimism here about them doing it properly. I am satisfied the flooding issue is not going to be an issue. The compatibility, actually, that's one thing I want to note to the developer as well. Like, I'm not sure if the renderings that we had in your package are final. But you can do your best to try and make sure the colors and that sort of thing match the rest of the neighborhood. I know it's hard to make any new development. Like, whenever any house gets fire damage needs to be replaced, it's very difficult to build something new that fits in. But I do think it's very important to try and keep a cap on that height to minimize the shadow of the folks that are going into the side yard. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'll move the deferral.
Thank you, Councillor Stretch.
Yeah, sorry, thank you. I'm happy to support the deferral just to make sure that their capacity issues and infrastructure pieces are in place. But looking at the plans for this, this is definitely something I would support. We see lots of downtown properties, you know, going through these kinds of changes and seeing a ton of development. And I think, you know, just having development like this in a downtown and expecting really specific areas to only be the areas that change or grow is not fair. There are lots of residents, and this neighborhood is really nice neighborhood. I went to high school at Grand River. I'm very familiar with the area, but the affordability piece around being able to own property and then, you know, have either renters or your parents or family be able to live on the property with the current state of housing, that's you know, something that for me personally is absolutely something I need to be thinking about and planning in the housing I'm looking at. And so yeah, just sort of signaling my support of this proposal, and I'm really happy to see it. And you know, I understand the change and how that's hard for residents, but I also understand that a change across the city and having things spread out is a good, so that we have a little bit of change everywhere and not just one really specific area to bear the brunt of the load. And wanted to add just the piece of my thanks to, you know, staff and for working through and trying to refine the process so that it is more clear, because I too am running into residents. Although the right of 4 has been, you know, something I think in practice it is quite shocking, and is quite like, oh, I didn't realize this when it comes into practice. So I think having our policies and our structures and our procedures around it, being really prepared for that, because it is quite a change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Michaud. Second round of comments.
Thank you, Councillor Chair Singh. I just want to make a comment to the residents. I know how unsettling this is. I want to tell you just a little bit of a story. I was born and raised in Kitchener. I lived on Fairmount Road with 5 children. I had 5 kids in the family. My parents. We were in a 1.5-story home, and beside us was an empty lot. We thought forever we'd play on this empty lot and be a wonderful life. Well, a triplex was built on a hill right beside us, so it towered over our home. And I remember how upset my father was for a number of years over this, but in the end, the best memories that came was from the people who lived in those apartments and the relationships we made with them. So I just want to share that with you. I'm not trying to underscore your feelings and your concern, but there's always silver linings.
Sorry, Rod. I think Councillor Michaud attempted to give you some comfort, so that's why she was communicating with you guys. Typically, we don't allow discourse from the gallery, but I wanted you to finish. But again, if you do have, so irrespective of what happens tonight with a deferral or decision by the committee, this would be ratified back into the council meeting, subsequent council meeting. So if you do have additional concerns, you can always delegate again on top of what other comments you had made already tonight. But Councillor Michaud, if you quickly want to finish off, yes.
Decades ago, but to be clear, the property values didn't go down. It was the neighborhood that was the attraction for people moving in. So it really, I mean, I get your concerns and I totally respect them, but I'm just trying to tell you there are silver linings and things.
Thank you, thank you, Rod. It's just that we can't go back and forth. It's just it becomes difficulty. I've shown a lot of latitude simply because there's not many in the audience except for yourself. But you can understand the procedures are such. Sometimes this gallery is full of 200 plus people, and it can become quite challenging to manage the delegations on top of whatever the discourse is taking place. But that's why I allowed a little bit of interchange to take place. And I wanted to encourage you again, if you have additional points to make, you have that ability to do so when this item comes back to council, and you can present again as a delegation and bring up additional points. And at that point, there may be additional interchange between the council members and yourself for you to be able to fully be heard that day. Okay, so those are all the comments made by the committee. I'll just quickly try to make my own as councillor. Actually, before I do, if the committee would allow me a little bit of latitude, questions of staff, because I didn't ask it. Evan, if you can just key back in quickly. What's the lot width? Too bad.
Approximately 16 meters.
16 meters? Okay. For as a right fourplexing or as a right triplexing, what's the minimum lot width irrespective of the zoning?
10.5.
And this is 16 meters.
This is 16.
Okay. All right. So that was the point I was going to try to make. I think I understand a change in type of housing use that's being looked upon on the street that's very atypical of the overall neighborhood, even though there are multi-dwellings in close proximity. Again, but that can be felt differently when your neighbor's house changes in size and mass. That's quite different than yours, what you maybe have had for decades, and that can be a challenge to absorb and can feel intrusive. So I hear the comments made by the delegations as as the objection to the proposal. That being said, I think council as a whole, through our official plan, through our subsequent updates to our official plan, have outlined the necessity to have a varying housing stock across the board in our city. Needs of family sizes, usages of residential units, as well as the affordability of different housing stocks has changed. And we want to allow and encourage inclusivity across the board in our community where members can have options of different housing stocks as opposed to just one type of a residential usage. And that is the reason why decades past through Ontario legislation, we've had for a long time as a right duplexing, seeing the increasing housing pressures. This council, subsequent to provincial legislation, we've allowed as of right triplexing across the board, and additionally taken a step further, encouragement by federal government funding incentives, we have as of right fourplexing. So some of the concerns laid out that clarity needed to be on the information sent, that it's just a semi, it's a fourplex. I think what we should also outline is, irrespective of the zoning application, what is the maximum density that the proponent could do irrespective of the application? And the answer to that is they could still have a fourplex. They could still have the 4 units. That's the zoning, that's as of right. That may not be something that's absorbable by the residents that are living on the street, but you have the same right as your neighbor. If you so choose to, you can demolish and build a fourplex on your site as long as you have 10.5 meter lot width. This one is 16 meters. So I think we just have to take that information into consideration when we're looking at this. We can hear the concerns. We can ensure that the right engineering reports are required so that infrastructure capacity is looked at. I think that's part of this application that was reviewed by our staff to ensure that the proposed units can be adequately served through water and sewer and stormwater. So those concerns have been negated. Like Councillor Stretches has said, that the concerns aside, this is something that we have been encouraging citywide, not just in this area. Citywide is a change in our housing policy. It coincides with our bylaws. It coincides with our official plan, and it also coincides with the overall provincial mandate to encourage more housing to take place across the board in varying different subdivisions. So with that, irrespective of the information that may come forward with the additional information from the region, that barring aside, I would be encouraged to support this application when this comes back to council. With that, deferral has been requested, so no decision will be made tonight. The decision is being deferred to council meeting, waiting on additional information from staff, receiving from the region, and then depending on that, as I said to the delegates, they can register again to speak on their matter once more if they so choose to. So on the deferral only, all those in favor, opposed, and that carries. Okay, so this will come back to the next council meeting for a final decision. That is the last item. We have information item only. With that, I'll ask for a meeting adjournment. Someone to move. Moved by Councilor O'Dooney. All those in favor, opposed, and that carries. Thank you, everyone. And once again, sorry for the delay at the beginning of the meeting.